I was not originally going to do this, but because I've been asked this question so many times by so many people, knowing my background of 12 years of law enforcement background, 10 years on the SWAT team, including being the SWAT team leader, which is the planning and both the logistics, the tactics, and everything needed to go ahead and execute SWAT missions, some of them to the very extreme highest degree. High danger, high threat, high risk individuals, everything from personal protection to high risk search warrants to various apprehensions and even undercover work for 2.5 years. So I do have some insight. I am not a Secret Service agent, nor have I done presidential protections. I have done state senators. I have done federal Congress members, things like that. But I do want to go ahead and switch over here and show this and give a little bit of a breakdown on this, just my 2 cents worth. Again, normally I'm trying to speak on the leadership component of this, but this is your scene. I believe my cursor can be seen just fine. But here we go, starting with the red dot. That's Trump. That's where Trump was speaking. He was on stage while this happened, and I think it's important for everybody to know that the suspect was over here on this roof. Now, I have gone and analyzed several of the videos. There are videos of people on the ground, people on bleachers all over the place yelling that, hey, there's suspicious activity. Specifically, there's a guy with a gun, there's a guy climbing on the roof, get him, get him, get him. And there was possibly 2 to 3 minutes of a lull. You can see officers running around the bottom of the rooftop, the building, trying to get up, trying to get a view. There's even a report. Again, please hold fast that I am not the investigator in this case and do not have actual evidence to make these statements. I'm just gathering what I can see and determine with my own discretion to be true from online videos and live recordings. But the guy can be seen crawling inches his way up the roof. A law enforcement officer has supposedly climbed the ladder to confront the suspect, had a gun pointed at him. He dropped back down, went for backup. And it is my impression, based on watching the videos, that that is what created a rushed shot by this sniper. Here's a couple important details. There is a tree right behind this wounded rally attendee sign. Even though the attendees in the bleachers, the tree right here makes it very difficult for law enforcement snipers to cover the roof. Now, here's what I know. I know that you need multiple sniper teams, and I have only been made aware of it all. One actual counter sniper team, another armed security force over here, maybe designated marksmen, but not actual counter sniper teams. This team was up here, as you've seen in the famous video of them being propped up on their bipods, and he keeps peeking through his scope before the first shot is heard, and then he returns fire and does his job. This is very interesting because from my SWAT experience, these rooftops all should have been covered. This line right here from the body was going to be somewhere in here. I don't think that white dot is perfect. But right here, you have about, we'll just call it 150 yards, just to round it off. We're saying people are reporting it in meters and yards, but you have about 150 yard and 140 yard return shot. This guy likely is going to be shooting just off the edge or possibly even through a tree, which makes sense for me why he's coming out of his scope. Your scope can get washed very easily by foliage, and sometimes you have to come out of the optic to see clearly and get back on target, especially if there's any wind, there's things blowing through your scope. So that shot even becomes more impressive, one, in the rapid nature it was taken, and two, if he was going through any foliage at all, this guy has to do something that's called burn through and work through to find his target, burn through the leaves and stuff like that and the brush in order to find the actual shootable target. And from what I could saw, the shot connected exactly as it was intended to. I also want to emphasize that the skill level of these people, these counter snipers, is remarkable. Absolutely remarkable. 150-yard shot is not the most difficult shot to take with an AR-15 style weapon. Any long rifle platformed weapon, 150 yards with a little bit of stabilization, you should be able to make a body shot. It was clear that this guy was shooting at the head due to the ear shot. The head is, other than the hands, the head is probably the hardest thing to hit on the human body. Just a little bit of turning and leaning, and then you miss your mark, which thankfully occurred in this case. So I'm not going to go ahead and say this 20-year-old was just some lousy bad shot. But he did miss, thankfully. Hopefully it was due to law enforcement response rushing him. It was due to Trump's movement, maybe a little bit of setting up the scene, taking a profile shot, and then we know that somebody was hit right here. Here's the major problems I'd like to point out. Look at this entire field. There are roads and points of ingress and egress all over the place for suspects to approach. This should have been a highly controlled event. I still do not have videos of the restrictions that were put in place, any types of barricades, any types of controlling of entrance to the event. The road should have been blockaded. There should have been inspections. There should have been canines for both bomb dogs. There should have been canines sniffing for everything from contraband, and then lots and lots of law enforcement, lots and lots of eyes searching suspects. There should have been metal detection devices, even if it's just wands and people going through checkpoints. But this is actually a very hard to control event. Looking at me, this is a little bit of a tactical nightmare due to the amount of cover behind the vent. I do think somebody was very smart to bunker themselves behind the system of barns, because that gives a response platform, a backstop, and it basically puts everything about 180 degrees out in front of you. So looking at this event, law enforcement had a pretty quick response. I know people are going to bash the law enforcement here. The only thing I would like to bash is the fact that this rooftop was not owned by law enforcement or the Secret Service. The details I am getting, that is a complete failure by the Secret Service agent in charge of this event, and ultimately the top dog, Kimberly Cheadle. Again, I want to emphasize that a failure of this nature, the buck stops here with the Secret Service top brass. She needs to resign immediately. This is her fault. That is all that you can say in this. This should have been controlled. We should have had marksman teams 1, 2, 3, 4 overlapping sectors of fire to control not only the crowd, but again, the points of ingress, egress. Here's the other thing. That guy had potential explosives in his vehicle, as has been released. If he were to just bust a barricade and go driving into the crowd, one, he could have injured a lot of people just with his vehicle. The explosive device works. He could have taken out people with an explosive thing. And there's a lot of open field, a lot of open grass, and it would have been very difficult. And then the final thing that I want to touch on today is the comments of this guy right here. Again, the internet is what it is at these points in time, and I do not know if this 3-page Facebook social media release is accurate, that the agent actually, after he was detained and interviewed for 24 hours, he is stating, or the person making the statement that he is the agent is stating that he requested to fire between 2 and 3 minutes, had the suspect in his sights, could identify who they were talking about was the threat, and wanted to take the shot, and was told to stand down and not take the shot. After the first shot was fired, he said, I had no choice. I took out the shooter. And he's saying that he was not only arrested or detained, but also fired for disobeying direct orders. He did the right thing, obviously, if that statement is true. Here's the trick. In SWAT realm, we had a very specific legal discussion. What if me, the operator or the team leader, let's say in a hostage scenario, can see something that the sniper cannot? Maybe the sniper can see the body, can see the person, can see the target, but can't see the threat. And here's my make pretend scenario that was discussed for legal actions. They're holding a woman or small child hostage, gun to their head. The sniper's view can only see the target, right? But they can't see the gun and the threat. Can I, a person not behind the trigger, give a green light to execute, to make that decision, and to neutralize that threat? So that discussion became very important, because the person that's going to be judged is the person that pulls the trigger, even though I'm saying, hey, the gun is to the head, the knife is to the throat, take the shot, green light, go, go, go. They still have to pull the trigger on something that they technically can't witness and observe themselves. So the legal opinion on that one was, yes, you can take that shot. So, for example, if this sniper was withholding for any reason because he can't see the gun, he can just see the little head and shoulders poking out, legally, whether he knows this or not, he should have been able to take that shot. The Secret Service agent that was in charge of the whole scene, probably, honestly, some cowardice there, that they were afraid to authorize a green light for something that they, the supervisor, could not see. And unfortunately, that is something that happens in law enforcement, that we hesitate because fear of retribution against our actions, especially to the point where it may require to neutralize a threat using deadly force. So that deadly force was utilized. Unfortunately, it was after the shots rang out, a few shots rang out. So we need to keep all of this in mind. That is my breakdown for you, is that this guy responded quite well, especially since he had a potentially blocked view. This guy probably had to take a rush shot, thankfully, due to the law enforcement presence that was below, and Trump's just kind of natural body movement, and the attempt at a headshot is likely what also contributed to saving his life that day. And then the people in the crowd did a good job generally getting down and not just fleeing and trampling each other and panicking. And I think that goes to the nature of who that audience was. An audience that is more conservative, more gun-friendly, more familiar with shots and firearms, knows that you just need to get down and bunker down. At this stage, we have a lot more active shooter training. Law enforcement was on the scene. They did their job. They got done what was done. And ultimately, the result was the successful removal of the president, his quick recovery, his statements, and his back to business doing what he is doing. So guys, I'll come out with more additional information and probably some more tactical videos, and also stay tuned for leadership videos on how people are responding to the event. But that's the long and short of it, and I hope this helped clarify a couple of things about how this all was made to happen, because this area right here was left fairly wide open for somebody to come, and he put his ladder up right between the cracks of these buildings, put the ladder up right here and climbed on board, but within the view of many people who reported it quickly. I'll let you know when I get more updates, and we'll give a further breakdown.